Hey guys, it's me, Johnny Crims 2000 here. Welcome to my latest Let's Play. Today I'm going to be doing a Let's Play of Captain Commando from Capcom. Now this game was originally released for the arcades in 1991, and at the time it was pretty innovative in some respects. Today it's not really remembered all that much, unfortunately, but at the time it did bring some new things, some new features that weren't available in other beat-em-ups that were released around that time. For example, one of the biggest ones was the ability to play 4 players at the same time, which today you may think that that's kind of like a standard with beat 'em ups nowadays, or even with beat 'em ups released afterwards. It's kind of just became a staple of the genre. But back then we didn't really have all that much as far as 4-player action, simultaneous action. Another thing was the ride mechs that you could pick around on the stages and stuff like that, which that was pretty innovative at the time, which I'll talk to you about later, and the special abilities, which I'll get to later as well. Strangely enough, this game wasn't ported over to any home console until 4 years later. It was ported over to the Super NES in 1995. Mind you, the Super NES at this time was pretty much on its last breath, I guess. The N64, the PlayStation, and the Sega Saturn were kind of looming on the horizon. I'm not exactly sure if it had already been released. I think the PlayStation was released already. So a lot of people missed out on this one as far as the Super NES version was concerned, which is a shame because this is a pretty good game, I must say. It was also released on the PlayStation, the Sony PlayStation, like 3 years later in 1998. But that version of the game was only released in Japan, so it never really came over here for some god-awful reason. I don't know. I think it would have made a good beat-em-up for the PlayStation, considering that the PlayStation didn't really have all that many. Certainly not that many like 2D beat-em-ups from what I can remember. And of course, this version, the version that I'm playing right now, as you can probably tell already, or been able to tell already, is I'm playing the version off of the Capcom Classics Collection Volume 2, which was for the PlayStation 2. And as you can probably already tell, I am not the only one playing this game. I actually got my 3 of my friends to play alongside with me, because I figured that this is a beat 'em up. It allows for 4 players, and what better way to show a beat 'em up than to show all 4 players at the same time? It would have been a lot, I think it would have been a lot more boring if it was just me going around by myself trying to beat this game. So this is for the PlayStation 2. So we did have to use a multi-tap in order to play this all at once, and we are playing on the hardest difficulty setting. So, kind of compensate for the fact that there's 4 of us like all at the same time. So it's pretty cool. Right now it's set up kind of weird, just because of how you choose. I think I can't remember how it works, but if you're doing multiplayer, you can't really choose the character that you play as. Certainly not in 4-player mode. So right now I am actually player 2, so that I can be Captain Commando. My friend Corey's is Mac, who is the mummy guy. I'll get to these guys' description of them each individually in a little bit. My friend's Corey is Mac, the guy with the mummy-looking guy with the knives. My friend Mandy is Ginzu, who is the ninja with the black and the yellow boots, I guess. And my friend Megan is the baby that's like riding on the mech. And this is all kinds of fun. As you guys will see as we go through this entire Let's Play, that this gets pretty hectic at times. Even my friend, like me and my friends, were all like just joking around, like we did not know what was going on half the time. And this game does get pretty hectic, especially when you get 4 players involved and on the hardest difficulty, where there's more enemies coming at you at the same time. And you know what? I love it, because this clearly shows the strength of the beat 'em up genre, the old school beat 'em up genre. Just getting a bunch of friends coming together all at once and just going to town on like wave after wave of bad guys. Just pure action-packed fun. But anyway, as you guys can tell right now, the gameplay is pretty standard, I must say, for a beat 'em up. You have 2 buttons. One is for jumping, one is for punches. And as you can probably tell from the intro of the stages, this one is very reminiscent of another one of Capcom's beat 'em up titles, which is Final Fight. Even the intro with where it shows the map and stuff is very similar to Final Fight, with how you start off each level. Even like from something like Ghouls and Ghosts, I think they shared that idea as well. But anyway, each character, to my knowledge, is not that vastly different from one another, except for their special abilities. Which, as you saw right now, whenever you press whenever you double press a direction, you start to run. And if you press the attack button, you'll get a different, you'll get like a little special attack that is unique to your character. So, for example, when I run and I press the attack button, I'll do this, like this kick thing that hits for multiple hits against multiple opponents. If you run, jump, and then press the attack button, you'll do a different attack. So for me, Captain Commando, you see me doing this a couple times actually. He'll do like a flamethrower move. And that's unique to him. So each one is different. And of course, in standard beat 'em up tradition, if you press both the attack button and the jump button at the same time, you'll do sort of a desperation move, which clears out all the enemies around you at the cost of a little bit of life every time it connects. So you kind of have to use that sparingly. So aside from that, this is pretty standard fare. The only big difference, as I said before, that made this stand out is the ability to play 4 players at the same time, which, as you can see right now, is just all kinds of chaotic and just a lot of fun to play with 3 other people, especially in the arcades when you didn't really know them. So, you know, it was a lot more fun then, I think. And of course, the futuristic setting, which, by the way, this whole thing takes place in Metro City. Yeah, the exact Metro City from Final Fight. So I'm not exactly sure how canon that is. It's supposed to take place, obviously, in Metro City in the future. But considering how Final Fight has, you know, it was retconned to take place in the same universe as the Street Fighter series, and now we're here in Metro City, which takes place in the same universe as Final Fight, does that mean that, you know, Ryu and Ken and Chun-Li and all those guys live in the same universe as Captain Commando? No, I'm not sure. And seeing how ridiculous some of these bosses and characters will get later on as we progress through the gameplay, you start to question that. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. But yes, we are playing, or this does take place in Metro City, the same Metro City from Final Fight. Haven't been talking about the characters all that much, but I mean, it's all kind of self-explanatory. I will say this: the characters are probably the best thing about this game, I must say. As you guys can see, I'm playing as Captain Commando. Some of you guys may be familiar with him from the Marvel vs. Capcom series. But Captain Commando, from what I have gathered in my research trying to get ready for this Let's Play, he's some sort of futuristic like superhero, I guess. The whole concept of this game, the premise and stuff like that, is supposed to be homage to like all the futuristic sci-fi movies of like the 60s, I think, like the 50s, 60s, and all that. So, you know, he's supposed to be like this superhero that's come to save the world of like the super criminals, which is what they're known as in this game. They're all super criminals. Don't know what makes them super, but I guess, you know, whatever. I guess they have like super powers or whatever. But yeah, Captain Commando, he's sort of like this superhero. He has like the glove things on, or the gauntlets, or whatever you want to call them, on his arms, grants him like superpowers or whatever. And as you guys can see here, I was trying to tell my friends to come on, and I think they were doing something at the time. I don't know. But with the gauntlets on his arms gives him the abilities to use electricity and fire. The fire, of course, is the flamethrower. That one right there, which he uses in his running, jumping attack animation or whatever, his attack. And the electricity is his special attack. My friend Corey, who is playing as Mac the Knife, who is the mummy-looking guy, his actual name in Japan is Gennady. So if you've played the Marvel vs. Capcom games, they are like the entire Commando team is in those games. Captain Commando, obviously, he's a playable character, but the other members of the Commando team appear in some of his attacks. And in that game, you may remember them calling him Gennady. So in the United States, when it was translated to English, he's known as Mac the Knife. Obviously, for, you know, reason for that is pretty obvious. He uses knives. But in Japan, he's known as Genity, which is kind of like a pun of genetics. He's supposed to be like some alien kind of guy with a mummy, but you know, I guess I don't know. I don't know where they get these. Like I said, the characters are pretty great. They don't make any kind of sense. My friend Mandy is playing as Ginzu the ninja, who is obviously the ninja, the one in all black, with the yellow. And Ginzu is actually known as Sho in the original Japanese version, and in the version from Marvel vs. Capcom, they call him Sho. They don't call him Ginzu. And the guy that we're fighting now is actually, he's supposed to be a rival of Ginzu. The story is not that deep. There's not much to the story, or as far as like, you know, having an entire wiki dedicated to Captain Commando, so I'm limited to like what the story is. But I do know that Yamato here is supposed to be a rival of Ginzu, or Sho. And finally, probably the most unique character of the four is my friend Megan is playing as Babyhead, who is the, she's going to drop in just a minute. And there we go. Yeah. Babyhead, who is a baby that's riding on top of a mech. Okay. In the story, he's supposed to be like this super genius baby that uses a robot that he personally made in order to fight crime. Okay. And in Japan, in the original Japanese version, he's not known as Babyhead, he's known as Hoover, which, you know, I think is a little bit better, more original than just Babyhead. But whatever. I love these characters. I love them to death. I think they're very unique. I really wish that they would have came back for more games. And as you can see here are the mechs that I was talking about. There are 3 different mechs available in this game. The green one is kind of just like a standard mech. The only thing you could do with that is you can punch, which, as you can probably guess, is, you know, very limited. But the cool thing about this is that when you're in the mech, you don't really take damage. At least I don't think you do. Until you get knocked off or something like that, and then somebody else can come in and take your mech, including the enemies, or your partners can come in and take the mech. The red one can spew out fire. It can set the people on fire, and the blue one is kind of like an ice element mech, where you know, you can freeze your opponent for a little while, kind of stun him and stuff like that. Whew, that's a lot of talk to talk about. So anyway, here we're fighting what's known as Monster, creative, I know. And he's basically just a man who got transformed to become a monster. Honestly, if you guys know Marvel vs. Capcom 2, doesn't he remind you of a Mingo? Am I the only one who gets that? Maybe this is where he came from. Original idea, do not steal. That's my theory, you can't take it. But anyway, this man that we're fighting right now, Monster, he's a little bit tricky because he knocks down like barrels and stuff like that. So there is somewhat of a strategy to fighting him. When he starts glowing like that, as he was right now, he pretty much becomes invulnerable, and that's pretty much when you know when he's going to knock down the barrels that are just going to come careening towards you. The only way to avoid the barrels effectively is to just stand still and just keep mashing the attack button to do your jab, which should break the barrels and this not allow them to like hit you or anything like that. As you can see right there, my friends Megan and Mandy are having kind of like a hard time. I tried telling them like just hit the barrels, but they just couldn't get the hang of it, I guess. And I ended up like getting the win. So huzzah! And I love this, how like at the end of everything they have to pose, and while they're posing, the bad guy just gets away. That bad guy, by the way, his name is Dr. TW. I don't know what that stands for, so don't ask me. And he's basically just, I guess, the evil scientist that works for the bad guys. I guess. Like I said, my information as far as the storyline of Captain Commando is fairly limited, so you'll have to excuse me for that. And this certainly doesn't take a cue from another beat-em-up game. Oh, definitely not. This is completely original. But anyway, these sections are pretty fun. There's one more coming after one more after this one, and they're pretty much just brainless action. All you have to do is mash the attack button. Every once in a while, you have like some hoverboards that'll have like guns and stuff on them. You have to be pretty quick to be able to pick them up. But you know, and this is the second part where we actually had there is a point to this. There is a timer at the top, and what you have to do is basically this kind of serves as sort of like a boss battle with a timer. What you have to do is you have to beat Dr. TW, and you have to keep just pounding on him until his hovercraft explodes. And as you can see, having 4 players at the same time makes this fairly easy. So even having 1 player, I didn't really have all that much trouble. And of course I win. By the way, the person that comes up to the front and taunts is the person who got the last hit in. And now we're going to an aquarium, and this is where I would say things start picking up as far as the difficulty, or like the amount of characters that get thrown at you. Not nearly as bad as the next stage that we'll get to, but that's another story. But yeah, this is Captain Commando. There's not much to talk about this game. Well, there is. There's a lot of action going around. We're in an aquarium. I really like the visuals. It's clean and stuff. This game never got a proper sequel though, which is pretty much a shame. I would have liked to have seen this come out in more like a sequel or something like that. Maybe even like a downloadable one for Xbox Live or PSN nowadays. But that's gonna be a fantasy for the foreseeable future. Fun fact: Captain Commando actually used to be Capcom's mascot. If you look at his name, Captain Commando, if you take the first 3 letters of both of those words, you'll get the word Capcom. So like Captain, Cap, Commando, Com, you put those 2 together, Capcom. And I actually do remember him being in some of the early like Super NES games that I had. I remember seeing him kind of like advertising like other games, or like advertising the Capcom helpline in the instruction booklet. So I do remember seeing him. I'm not exactly sure when it was that they changed, like they stopped using him, but basically like after him, Mega Man started to become the mascot for Capcom for a while, and then it was Ryu from the Street Fighter series, which kind of came at a pretty weird time, considering that I think it was like around the year 2000 or so when they changed it up from, or not, maybe like a couple years ago when they changed him from Mega Man to Ryu. But considering that Street Fighter didn't come out until like just a little while ago, there was really little reason to have Ryu there. So I'm not sure what the deal is with that. But anyway, now we're fighting these alien-looking things, which they're only called Z. I don't know why. And my friend Mandy made the comment that these guys looked like Vega from Street Fighter because of their claws. This is a pretty weird looking aquarium, I must say. But I guess that's how things will be in the future. I'm not sure. So now we're fighting Druck and Shatrom, something like that. And they're basically somewhat similar to an enemy we faced earlier. The only these guys can be a bit of a pain. The only reason why we're like completely owning these guys is just because there are 4 players at the same time. As you guys can see on the right there, we kind of got this guy in a lock. At this point of the gameplay, I was just like, everybody just like gang up on this dude. Like, don't let him jump, don't let him do anything, just bombard this man. Just keep pressing the attack button and we'll get him eventually. But yeah, as you guys can see here, I mean, these guys are very colorful. I love games that have this sort of creativity, you know? This was completely different from anything else that was out at the time as far as beat-em-ups are concerned. You look at things like Golden Axe and what is it? Knights of the Round, which was another game from Capcom. Final Fight, Streets of Rage. There was pretty much a formula there. It was either in the streets fighting like random thugs, or we were in some medieval time. You know, even Ninja Turtles had that formula where it was pretty much just going around beating nameless thugs in the streets. But this one, I mean, look at it. We're in an aquarium. A mummy, a superhero, a ninja, and a baby on a mech fighting bad guys. Okay. You know, because that makes sense. And anyway, guys, that'll be the end for this part of the Let's Play. Join me next time when we continue on with part 2 of Let's Play Captain Commando. See you guys then.